Alright, welcome back to Super Sentai Review, episode number 191. This was discussing the last thing to be associated with Go-Onger, part of their franchise, that I can think of. Well, there is technically also the Geki Range, the Go-Onger Geki Range movie, but I'm still not going to discuss it right now. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to wait until I get to Geki Range. I'll probably get to that in the future. Who knows? This one I'm discussing the movie that came out just a few years ago, believe it or not. Yes, a film that was celebrating at the time the 10th anniversary of the airing of Go-Onger. Yep. Now, here's the thing about this one. This movie is entirely canon because they even bring up what happened in Go-Onger, which is interesting because normally, a lot of the time when they use 10 years later, they usually don't bring up other stuff just related to their series. They ignore us. This one, nope, they keep everything canon. Basically, from the perspective of the series, this is probably the first time teams been united. This is probably the first time they've been together. I'd say in terms of the series, I would probably say since the first episode of Go-Onger was probably the last time I could think of they did this. Yes. Which that came out in 2010, I believe it was. Yeah, 2010. This was probably the first time in 8 years they've actually had a team together. Though the actor who played Sosuke did briefly appear in a couple episodes of Go-Onger in a quick two-parter as the anniversary tribute to this one. Yep. Now, in the case of this movie, it takes place in present day. Now, for some reason, despite it coming out in the year 2018, you might be thinking, okay, because it came out just a few years ago, what Sentai series was airing at the same time this movie came out? Let's see, 2018, I'd say it was probably Lupin Ranger versus Panther Ranger. Yes. Came out the very same year. And for some reason, they actually did not bother to basically have the team make a cameo appearance, per se. No. My guess is because it's not their movie. That's probably my guess anyways. And they do mention some stuff at the start of the give an exhibition basically start off with. Aside from the fact it's been 10 years, apparently there's a Super Sentai band. Yes, seriously. There's also this mysterious barrier that's up. The reason is because something really dumb. Which they do explain in a later scene that there was apparently a suicide bombing done by Hero. So he's apparently dead at the start of the movie, but turns out, nope, he's not dead, he's alive. He's in Junk World, which is probably the first time they've actually mentioned Junk World. Probably the first time they've been in Junk World since the, Go-Onger vs. Shuriken movie. Yes, that was the last time I could think of that Junk World was seen. Okay, in the case of basically, so there's this kid basically seen with this car, which turns out to be the engine cast for Bear V. Yep. Bear V. Yeah, and it's also found at the end of the movie. This kid's actually special. You want to know why? Apparently, this kid, despite the fact he's not the same actor, apparently he was there the very day that the Go-Onger fought their first monster. No, seriously. They describe him as a toddler back then. I mean, he can speak mostly. I can say he's about 3 or 4. He should be a little bit taller than he is right now. I mean, clearly it's a different actor. He should be a little taller than this. Could be middle school? Possibly, yes, but they don't really say it at all. So apparently he's hiding from the special police force. Yes. And then all of a sudden he's apparently taken captive by 2 people special force, who turns out to be Sosuke Ren. Yep. And apparently the Go-Onger are deemed terrorist. Why? That relates to Hero apparently being accused of being a suicide bomber, even though what actually happened was not the actual story. That was a lie told by the main villain in the movie. And by the way, the main villain in the movie is villain to be the politician that Saki is working for. She is his public relations officer. Yep. She's working for the main villain. But it turns out, nope, she actually is never the portray the team. In case you're curious, though, does she put on her signature attire she wore for the series? They tried Gunpei tried to have her on at the end of the movie, but nope, she has not put it on. A lot of movies she wears a business suit. So, yeah, and then of course when they found out what it is, of course the kid thinks that the Go-Onger are terrorists, even though they really aren't. So, and then for some strange reason, somehow they find him. Oh wait, how did he find him? The kid's chip on his hand, this end chip. Yeah, this is explained that the villains of this movie, who are not the Canark, by the way, yeah, it's a completely different organization involved in this one movie only, and it's made of like 2 people, and that's it. How this organization was created is explained later on. Apparently, it's made from discarded electronics. No, seriously, that is how they created this organization. That's the origin of the leader of the team, of the organization, his lieutenant. So then, of course, this guy with the red scarf, he puts on these special glasses. It turns him to Kanarsky, which Aaron points out. They're like, wait, aren't you dead? Well, it's a guy who looks like him, except he's got a Z in his head. My theory is, along with another character who will appear a little bit later, it's probably the very same costume, even though that probably has not been used in a decade. They probably decided to use that very same costume, but for a completely different character. By the way, the specific disposed by appearance-wise is Kanarsky. It's actually Grayarski. Yes. And the villain's named Nazun, who's got this weird look for him. He's actually an original character. Oh, and he's only in just this movie. Yep. He is nobody else. So eventually they track down the source while they're on the run, and Genpai was captured, tied up along with Bumpa, who's back in the human world for some reason, even though that he should be back in machine world. And by the way, they also got back their G phones, which is something the movie does not explain, or how the heck that they apparently have stopped using their RV they use for the entire series, and now they have an actual office. Yes, they put all the stuff that was kept in this one van the entire series, and they have an office now, which has the same exact stuff they had in that van. What happens in the van? Never explained. It's like his last appearance was in the final episode of Go-Onger, because you see it here, and there's no mention of it. This photo is basically when they're Go-Onger from the series, which I think it was great. I kind of wish they would explain what the heck happens to the thing, because I think the last time it was seen, I think Genpai actually kept the thing after supposedly the team disbanded after the series, so somehow they got back together. Well, they came back together because of the Legend War, which happened just a couple years after the events of their series, which then led into the events of Go-Onger, when they sacrificed the powers. And you might be curious though, how did they get the powers back? Well, that was due to the ending of Go-Onger. Yes, the end of Go-Onger. Basically, they gave all the Rangers back their powers. Yep, all the Super Sentai who had been existing at that point all got their powers back. Yep, they all did. Now, Boompa was not, I think he was in the episode, but it's been a while since I watched it, so. But apparently he decided to stay behind after they got the powers back. It's not really explained with Boompa. Yeah, it's kind of weird. And apparently also, Bear V, the reason why she's by herself and not with her husband, yes. Now, it was mentioned in Go-Onger that Speeder and Bear V got married and they had a kid. The kid is never mentioned here at all. And they apparently got into an argument. Now, one thing the movie does not explain either is what was the argument about. And why is the machine world looks perfectly fine? Yeah, it's like there's a lot of stuff related to this movie that's never really explained. So, and it's also hinted that the barrier's up for about 3 years. Which I'm like, 3 years since the movie came place in 2018. So, let's see. You could say in the background, this is probably perhaps his Ninja Hunter. Yeah, you could say that, yes. Mm-hmm. But who knows when it comes to this particular one? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, then eventually they go to the factory where the chips made, and apparently chips made on Junk World. Yeah, and they run into the pollution ministers, who are still with the Canuck, even though they are, but they're not. And apparently they basically made their Junk World their new home. Okay. And if you're curious what happened to their palace they had for the series, that was destroyed in the final episode by the Crime Minister. Yep. Oh, and by the way, in case you're curious though, how the heck were these three resurrected? Despite the fact these three are supposed to be dead? Well, if I remember quickly, I believe these three were brought back in I believe it was brought back in the Shuriken vs. Gorange movie. And also, and they told us in a flashback, they kept the bottle from Shuriken Gold. They took a bottle of alcohol from his cart, and they've kept it since then. Yeah, kept it for a long time. So there's an continuity data for you. Yep. So they explain the origin of this new organization. Apparently Garsky followed them there, and apparently Keisha decided to follow them back to Earth, where they fight first outside of their office. Yes. They're private. Apparently, they run a detective agency now. By the way, the twins, despite the fact being rich, there is no mention what happened to their house they have in the series. Yeah, that's another thing the series this movie is about to explain. There's a lot of stuff from the series they don't really explain if I follow what happened, like what happened to their family in the 10 years that since the series aired. They don't really go into it at all. Or like what the heck the character's up to. Aside from the fact they reunited for the Legend War and had to do a favor for Speeder in their Adventure Go-Onger. There's not really much else to explain what happened to these people. Yes. Also, Genpai, they do bring up he's actually back with the police. Unknown if he's still a detective anymore, but he is with the Metro Police. Okay. And that Hunt is still still delivers pizza. Yes, he does. So, what about the other ones? Don't really know. You could say that Maki's been funding the office with her money. It's possible. They don't really go into it at all. I mean, them based off a build like this reminds me a lot of Time Ranger. And that was only 18 years prior to this one. Yes, seriously. So they had the battle with them, and of course Saki, who still has the thing transformed into a like 0001, whose body looks exactly like the vice minister, the air pollution vice minister. Yes, except he's a lot more bulkier, and his sword does have the American things on it. Though he's destroyed in the movie by, well, first they take Saki out, basically hold down. Of course, you actually have Sosuke pull his hand in. Now you might be curious though, did Saki ever have a thing for Sosuke? No. Oh, and by the way, in the series, Miu is revealed in the series to have feelings for Sosuke. That was never followed up with at all. There are hints about it, the whole series. I personally, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this last video. Sosuke was basically, wasn't acting fearful at all. He basically was like gun-ho to avenge his friends. Got praise for being loyal. And of course, toss Miu away. Maybe that caused her to basically calm down her feelings for him. It's not exactly explicit reveal. At least she's not slapping Sosuke in the movie. Yeah. It's like whatever relationship these two had is never mentioned. Not at all. Nope. Never mentioned. And so they battle all three, and of course, and they eventually get back the barrier, the phone that activates barrier. The guy says, "Oh, if you destroy it, more endless people come." Possibly, hence the rest of the other Super Sentai series. Like, well, we'll deal with that. He does mention the fact there are Sentai teams out there, but who knows? It's strange though they don't have Shuriken pop up here. Yeah. Now I get the fact it's not their movie, but you could at least have a guest star appearance by them. But no, just focus on Go-Onger. Okay. So their Zords show up. They briefly form a new brief one-shot formation which has all their Zords, all 7 Zords. By the way, Corrugator is not here. The Primal Zords are not here either, which is strange. They had 12 Zords at the end of the series, and yet 4 are not here for some strange reason. It's weird. Excuse me. So, eventually, of course, basically, they defeat the bad guys at the very end, and basically just, well, then we have snapshots from various episodes from the series, from the start of it up until the very end, and that's the movie. It's a pretty good movie, but there's certain things not been explained. Like, what happened to the main 3 Rangers at the end of the series? Mew's attraction to Sosuke, never explained. What happened to the van? Also, the movie doesn't well explain, like, well, why doesn't they tell Yoskin, the one who's the Earth Pollution Minister, why don't they tell him, hey, nice to see you again, but your dad was a jerk. Yeah, it's almost like what happened the final episode is never mentioned here. Like the whole thing with the Crime Minister, it is just never explained. Yeah, it's weird though he's never mentioned here. At least Kanarski is. Probably because the character looks like Kanarski. Aside from that, really good movie. So that's pretty much it. I would do one more video, but it's getting late. It's almost midnight, so Happy New Year. If you see us later, okay. So I'll be doing some comic horrors tomorrow, along with some Kamen Rider. Yep. But yeah, in the case of Go-Onger, this is pretty much it. With the exception of that one team movie, the previous one. You can think of it as the third and last one they had. But I'm definitely looking forward to discussing Gecko Range at some point. But I will not review when. But it's still definite. The next thing I'm going to cover is Changeman. But next Tokusatsu series and watch is going to be Kamen Rider Sky Rider. Which I might watch on tonight. Who knows? Okay? Next video. Bye.